Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of my show. Now this is a subject that's very close to my heart and it's a subject I've openly talked about already on my social media platforms, mental health. I've been very excited about doing this type of discussion online for all of you to enjoy, but it is also a very sensitive subject for many people. Now I know a lot of you out there who will watch this are struggling, and please, I want you to know there is always somebody willing to listen. Make sure you pick up the phone, speak to a family member or a loved one. Don't keep it inside. Share your story, watch and enjoy, but at the same time, open up and be free. Well, today's a very special edition for me personally. It's a good friend of mine, Drewe Broughton, a former teammate, an author, and now a high-performance coach for business leaders and athletes. Drewe, first and foremost, you're in the UK. How are you doing, and are family safe during this difficult time?
Yeah, I'm good. You know, it's been an interesting time because more time stuck at home, obviously, which is lovely with the kids. But you know, there was a nice balance before, so finding it difficult without that balance. But no, things are good. We're all fine. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, especially about a subject that for so many people it's difficult to talk about, especially in public. It's a subject that I've personally spoken about openly on social media, and I don't think I could have found a better person for this first episode. Or what I'm trying to do online is open up and allow people to be able to have a platform to discuss their own mental health. Drewe, for many of my followers and people that are at home watching, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, the long story short, so to say, and where you started and where you ended up?
As a kid at school, always athletically quite blessed, 6'3", a good runner, all that stuff. So through the sports teams, quite effortlessly, got picked up by Norwich City as a kid, and went through the system again. I remember being like 9, 10 years of age, and I always felt, looking back now, I know what it was, but I didn't know what it was then. I always remember feeling this sense of loneliness, this real, I was different. I was very sensitive, didn't understand that at the time. Everything hurt me. So there was all that going on, but I was athletically quite good. So I went through the system at Norwich City, left home at 16, made my debut in the first team 18 months after leaving home, away at Wolves in England, and things were going great. I was a new 3-year contract, so I'd hit that first mountain. I'd become a professional. I had a really good contract with Adidas, gave me a 3-year contract. That was amazing at that time. I was in England under 20s with the likes of Ferdinand and Carragher, and in that 26-man squad. So everything was going that way on a trajectory. But I guess, looking right back, 17, 16, 17, 18, started to ramp up as I left and joined Norwich. Just match day, anxiety, stomach cramps after the game, sickness, diarrhea, this kind of stuff. I remember going to see the physios, getting checked out. There was nothing wrong with the stomach lining, all that stuff. So they send you on your way. And I just found, looking back now, that this great paradox. I'm one of the most driven people I know, which I guess helps me work with these high achieving people because I'm like that. So there's this constant nothing's ever enough. No performance is good enough. Always can be better. Knowing what I'm capable of, you're always aiming there, driving. And whereas some people would say that's brilliant, that's amazing, what a gift. Yes. But also I think, because then I have this other side that I'm quite intelligent and I'm very sensitive, that just undid all that drive because I would feel every emotion. So in a dressing room scenario as a young player, and I know you've been there, mate, I would know on a Monday if I'm not going to play on a Saturday. I would get that feeling straight away off a coach, off an assistant coach and manager. I'd just get a feeling, and then all week, if the people didn't speak to me the right way, I'd get a feeling. And so that's how it was. But of course, come match time, you pull your jersey on and you're 6'3" and you're, 160 pounds, 150 pounds. You know, you're big, you're strong, your body fat 6%, you're looking a certain way, you're paid to be a certain way. So you somehow survive and get through it. but there was always this underlying, just this loneliness, this deep unhappiness. And I think Tyson Fury really motivated me this summer with everything he went through. And I heard some of the things he said, and I thought, yeah, I really get that. You can still be driven and feel less than, or not good enough. Yeah, I don't know if you resonate with any of that or any of that.
Listen, I resonated because I was there. I experienced it with you personally, obviously on a personal basis.
Well, for you personally, but of course, our paths collided, and we've never talked about that because we went our separate ways, like a lot of players do. But I remember that being a really awkward time for me because I wasn't nice to you on occasion. I wasn't nice to a lot of people. I would push people away. I'd be quite abrupt and rude, and because I was just battling up here all day long. So it was like, oh, you're in my way,
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, going back to those times, and a lot of people who are actually watching this probably don't know, we did play together at Kidderminster, and I got to know you personally. We lived together for a short period of time as well, so I got to know you away from the hard man that was on the soccer field and the professional. And I think I have read your book, which first and foremost is absolutely fantastic, and I have to say, you were absolutely up there with some of the best professionals that I have ever played with, and the way you maintained yourself. And I learned a lot from you. And at times during your book, I've read it and clearly can see that you've been very, very critical of yourself. But a lot of the younger players, and I was younger and still am younger than you, I'm happy to say, I learned a lot from you and took a lot from that in the professionalism and the way to maintain that engine, looking after your body. And I wasn't built like that. I certainly needed to be around top professionals to learn from that, and I did that from you. And I think now, when we look at the game now compared to what it was 15 years ago, is it safe to say that there isn't enough put out there in protection for younger players as far as their own mental health? Is it safe to say that maybe every professional club out there, or not even professional athletes, also businesses, don't put enough effort and finances into looking after their employees and their teammates and their players as far as mental health goes?
Firstly, thank you for your kind words, mate. I mean, I started a podcast called The Gift is the Curse, and it was around those lines because I can say now openly, and when I finished playing, I set a career up. I studied movement and injuries and human performance, human movement, Gary Gray in the States, John Hardy, looking at injuries, looking at function. So when I retired and I bottomed out, I set a business up. I knew 5 or 6 Premier League players. So I called those guys and I said, look, guys, I've studied this stuff, might help you. My knee's killing me. So my first business, 4.5 years, was working privately at players' houses outside of club hours, with a different eye set on their recurring injuries or the pain they were suffering. So I was actually, I studied 5 years, so that was my first. And the reason I said that is because my business, there was Jake and I who set it up, we had about 35 players a week by the end of that. I'm talking about at the time the likes of Harry Kane, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott, Kieran Gibbs, Robson Kanu, Bellamy, Toure, all privately at the guys' houses. Yeah. Now, I remember driving away and thinking, I've still not met a guy as professional as me. and I've never, because people say, what are you talking about? They're at the top. But actually, that's not a massive positive if it's not controlled. So I told you that story to get back to the original point. Was one of the greatest dangers I see today is guys being too professional. And I think I did a chapter in my book, Being Too Professional Will Kill You. And
yes.
Man, it does. Like, if you look at the best players in the world, I saw Rio Ferdinand, who come on one of the TV programs before a Champions League game. Barcelona were playing, and it was in the tunnel, and they were quite relaxed, and they were going over and hugging the opposition guys. I guess they knew each other, internationals. And he commented that I don't get that. I've been staring down the tunnel, going, "It's match time. I remember sitting in my chair at home thinking, you still haven't got a clue, Rio. I'm not knocking you as a player, but Lionel Messi can go and hug that guy and be so relaxed, so chill. He's still going to score a hat-trick. Yeah. And actually being that relaxed is the key. It's the key to everything. And so it's such a fine line to walk when you've got that natural drive. And the game wasn't as professional when we were there. Sports science was in place, but not like it is today. So actually, one of the biggest things I see, one of my roles today, I look after 8 players privately. As a high performance coach, what does that mean? I'm on access all day, WhatsApps, voice notes.
Yeah.
I watch their game back through Y Scout. I watch their training through Huddle. So a lot of the guys at the top level have their training. So they'll say, have you seen training yet? What do you think? You know, and I'm trying to undo all the time the over control and the over professionalism. And just relax. Like, you don't need to. I'm not going to have a Nando's this week. I have a Nando's. Like, it's okay. You know, because that, you know.
I think it reminds me of a part in your book where you were talking about our time when our coach at the time was Jan Molby, who played at the highest of high levels, and the assistant coach, Gary Barnett, which you also brought up in the book, the difference of mentality, whereas one's driven and push and work as hard as you can and go that extra mile and do everything more than you ever need to, and the other one's just relax. Your talent will take care of what needs to happen.
Mm. And it's a fine line. And look, Jan played hundreds of games for Liverpool, won Champions Leagues, and so. But looking back now, I can see it. I can see it, and obviously later in my career playing for Paul Ince, where, you know, stellar career at Man United, won everything. He had the balance really, really good. Actually, training was fierce. The tempo was fierce. It was his first job at MK Dons leaving Man United, and you can see the tempo. But actually, it was very relaxed as well. So getting that balance, and today we're in a world, I guess, because if we'd have had all this access, if I'd have had all this access to source the best training, the best nutrition, man, my head would have been even more fried than it was, I think, because where does it stop? You know,
where does it stop? Yeah.
You know, so going on to another part of your question, do clubs, do businesses look after mental health enough? I think there's a lot of a misunderstanding around mental health. You know, what is mental health? There's so many strands to it.
Yeah.
Mental illness. There's obviously the ones that are more clinically assessed, those more serious levels. For myself, and I think I'm actually a lot more common across the board, is overthinking, being sensitive and just being stuck in there all day long, and catastrophizing, worst case scenarioing. You're driven, so you want to do better, you said in my book, I criticise myself a lot. I'm very aware and have enough therapy to know that I don't over-criticise, but I am honest. But I think there is that. I think across the board, what I've seen going and working in business is that it's very much the same issues. In the high-pressure sales world, in the city where targets are high, pressure's high. I remember being in a boardroom with senior management, and one of the targets was, they were nowhere near the target halfway through the month. And one of the senior managers said to me, you know, we're nowhere near the target, there's 2 weeks to go, what do you suggest I do? And he was all frantic. I said, how are you feeling? And he went, I said, on a level, how are you feeling? If I was where you were, I'd be scared. Be scared, because if you don't hit your target, you're under more pressure from, well, the owner who's there. You've got your bonuses, your targets, your financial outgoings, your wife, so this escalator of pressure. I said, you're scared, but do you think you're good enough? I said, yeah, I'm good enough, but you're scared. So what if you were to get your team? How many is in your team? 6. Okay. What about if you get your team of 6 on the Monday? It was on the Friday, and say, look, guys, 2 weeks to go, we're nowhere near it. I'm terrified. I think we're good enough. I'm in with you. I need to make this happen as well. Let's all rally around. Let's cut our brakes down a little bit. I'll work with you, and let's make this happen. I think we can do it. And anyway, he 10 days later, he told me he'd employed that, and they smashed it, and they smashed their target with a week to go. So you come away and you're thinking, that's where mental health, for me, the lines can get blurred. You know, if that story can elaborate a little bit, people will struggle, and it's not. They're not good enough, or they're not tough enough, because I was seen as quite, you know, I bumped into Mick Harford at Luton, who's a bit of a legend in the English game, being tough. And my reputation now, looking back, people go, oh, you were tough. You were a tough player. And I think, really? Oh, really? I was an absolute petrified 8-year-old, you know.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You know?
I don't think people sometimes realize the pressure that you put on yourself to perform, and also the things that do go through your head. And, you know, from my point of view, of course, there was a lot of things I could relate to as a professional as I'm reading your book. You know, I'm going to beat my opponent, I'm going to smash this lad, and I'm going to score 10 goals, and I'm going to do all this. You know, for me, I had a little bit of a different mentality where maybe I was fortunate. As I'm reading your book, I'm learning that too, that I was very fortunate. I had the mentality is I'm going to go out here and I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy myself. And that it gave me a bit of freedom to go and play. But of course, I was very nervous. And certainly I wasn't technically as gifted as many players that I played with. And there's no doubt that injury played a big role in me stopping myself getting to a higher level. But definitely my mentality and where my issues came in as far as my mental health was injury. Do you deal with that also with your clients now that you have now? Is injury a big part of that where they're very frustrated? I was very scared. Every time I went out, I was frightened of getting hurt.
No, really. I mean, 8 guys, one of them had a leg break. One of them had a lumbar vertebrae hairline fracture, 6 months. Yeah, but injury is what it is.
Right.
So once you've grieved that initial, I can't believe it, that's my season done, you've got to go through that grief. There's no way around that. Then it's the recovery process. Then you can focus and you can. So I wouldn't say that's a tough one for me. Really, when I'm having got, and I'm open to the guys to message me about whatever they want. The guys who've had long-term injuries, there is a period, of course, where the world's over. But once you get through that period, I think the guys that have tended to come towards me, law of attraction, if you like, have been similar to me, actually very driven. And what I find funny is I won't mention names, but there's a couple of young managers now finding their way and top players. And I know not all of them, but there's one in particular that's in my head that really struggles emotionally with his players, cannot connect.
Yeah. Very
black and white, very winners win, losers lose. There's no grey area. I know for a fact, he's a similar age to me, that he really struggled in his career emotionally and mentally, even though he was a top player. And what I find is players shut off part of themselves emotionally to cope, which might serve you as a player. I couldn't do that. I couldn't, probably even deep on another level to that guy. But he then now is leading a group of men when it's all about emotion, when it's all about empathy and understanding their fear and understanding you were there hundreds of times when you hadn't scored as a striker for 6 games, when as a defender you hadn't kept a clean sheet, whereas you're a goalkeeper and you made 2 howlers and you've got 1 more game. And it's almost like I'm hearing it so commonly that these managers have forgotten that. And that's the big thing. When I'm chilling back with my mates who are all ex-players, we're like, how do they forget what they went through?
Yeah.
But I do understand why, because it hurts, because that career is so emotionally tough that it's easier to compartmentalise and shut down part of yourself. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that with players. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a coach. I share what I went through, and I want them to own their emotions. And one of the young players is 20. He's at one of the top 4 clubs in England, top player. Could be whatever he wants. He said to me, Drew, I was thinking the other day, all of the best players or best athletes generally in history have all been really emotional, haven't they? I said, all of them. You won't find one that isn't. Some of them used alcohol to survive. Some of them used drugs, whatever. Some of them didn't. Some of them used faith. Mm-hmm. You won't find one who's not got that level of emotion and depth. They learn how to walk with that, and don't hide from it, as long as they're not escaping it in the wrong way. I think. Yeah, I think the reason the problem is worse today, and it is a lot worse, is because someone said something fascinating to me once when in rehab post rehab. I was in in recovery work, and someone said to me, do you know, you've never heard a story of somebody shooting themselves in the heart to kill themselves. You always shoot yourselves in the head. He said to stop the voices, right? And I was like, oh, man, yeah, like, it's so true, just as quick. But it's this that drives us insane. So I'm getting guys to, when I've been successful is when a couple of lads I've been working with now for 4 or 5 years, and who at the start could have been lost to the game, Ian. Could have easily been lost to the game. 19, loads of talent, but just stuck up here.
Yeah.
Success for me is when I say to them, they're almost hovering above themselves on match day, watching the carnage go on in a dressing room, watching the fear. And they ring me after the game and say, I was brilliant today. I was brilliant. I was myself. I had courage. I went and got the ball. I failed. Got it again. Failed. Awesome. I said, like, I sat there before the game. And it's crazy. And it's like 5 minutes before kickoff, I was, And I said, I'm just sitting there, legs crossed, watching this. And the assistant manager said to me, are you all right? Are you up for this? He's like, I'm good, man. I'm ready to play. And hence the Rio Ferdinand comment. Those top boys, they're not searching for anything. They're not searching for courage or searching for confidence or searching for. They're just like, I'm a good player. Yes, there's 100,000 people. Yes, I need to play well. Yes, the world, but I'm good enough. I trust myself. Work hard. So.
What's the sort of process you go through when you have a client that comes to you, Drew? And I know you deal with multiple sports. You deal with business leaders as well. What is the first sort of step that you would take to someone? Maybe you could give us an example who would come to you lacking some confidence or lacking self-belief that they can achieve or hit their targets, whether it be as an athlete or in the business world. What sort of the first steps that you look at to get into their mind?
It's a great question. Let me give you 2 scenarios. So one's with a footballer, one's with a business owner that I still work with today. It's 2 years on. So the young player sat with his father, and he was a bit wit's end. He was away with England under 20s, and it was a journalist friend of mine called me and said, "Look, I was at the game. I know this guy's father. They're desperate. His son's struggling. He's locking himself in his bedroom at night. I'm not locking himself. He's up there all night. He's not.
Yeah.
Could he speak to you?" So we met. The father talked quite a bit, and I was looking at the son, who's 20, and I'm just trying to work out: do you really want this, or are you happy? Are you genuinely happy earning what you're earning? Which is cool. I'm not going to judge you. And so you're just asking the odd question: are you at your best when you play? Do you ever leave the pitch and go, "I could have been better than that"? How regular is that? How often is that? In training, do you have moments in training where you just think, I can't be bothered today, I'll just get through training, or do you take the easy option? So you start digging in, and then that particular night, I remember that the father rang me the next morning, right, we want to start. We've worked with 3 or 4 performance coaches. He got in the car, he loved it. I said, okay, I'm not sure if I want to start. Why? I said, well, I want to sit with your son. I need to sit with him and ask him. I need to look into his eyes and go, look, you've been blessed with unbelievable talent. You're the quickest player at your club. You're so quick. You can go left, you can go right, you can do all that stuff. But do you know what's coming over this next 15 years? I have to prepare you. You're going to be told, don't dribble, play safe, play safe. You're going to have to ignore that. You're going to have to nod your head at the manager. I don't care how big his reputation is, nod at him, walk down the tunnel, do what you want, cross, and then you'll get a wolf whistle down the touchline, you'll get a clap, and you'll look over and go, well, I just ignored everything you said. You just clapped me, and this is what we're going to have to do, and this isn't easy, and you're going to have to be really open and honest. I remember this young player sat with me and said, look, I want to be Ballon d'Or. There's no grey area for me. He said it so seriously. I went, okay. It wasn't, he didn't have time to think about, oh, I want to be Ballon. It was from, okay, I've done, everything says he has every attribute to get there. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be a 10-year journey. So just probing and digging and what is he about? Is he because the biggest gift for me is the gift of desire, and how deep are you willing to go? I was willing to go however deep someone would have taken me. I just couldn't find that person to unlock. And then the business owner messaged me from LinkedIn, and we went and met in London, and he just started talking. I said, look, what's your issue? And so I saw a post you did, it really resonated with me. I've had a lot of business coaches, a lot of guys have come into the company, and the whiteboard goes up and it's the steps to leadership. And he said, I'm tired. He said, none of it's working. I'm tired. I'm rowing with my wife all the time. The company's nowhere near what it should be. We're turning over, tens of millions. He said, but I know I've always had this ability to just make things happen. And I know my mate sold his company last year for X. He said, I know we could, but I just can't do it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And so you go, okay. And so just by him being that vulnerable, you think he's ready to do whatever it takes to. So then it's much of my process is getting them to look in the mirror and understand that they're just good. That they spent probably more than a few years running down all these rabbit holes looking for answers. Mm-hmm. And actually, what were you doing at 18? Well, I was joining this company, but I was head salesman in 4 months, but that's got nothing to do with, well, hang on a minute. You were head salesman in 4 months, how'd you do that? Well, I just sold stuff, and then, they elevated me, and then I was the biggest seller the company had for 10 years. Okay, that's not bad. You start...
You start opening it for them.
Yeah, and I've had that with a golfer who was now on the European tour. He's, nearly played the Ryder Cup, plays in majors. Mm-hmm. He was nearly quitting the game 5 years ago, and I was, we sat and we went for a coffee, and he said, I'm not going to play in the next tour. I'm not going to play in the next tournament. Mm-hmm. Okay, why not? The last 4, just been a disaster. And I remember taking him, I said, well, when did you start golf? When I was 10. What were you doing? I was playing Sunday football, and then Dad was playing golf. I thought I'll pick up a golf club. And by 12, I was off 10. I was like, did you have lessons? No, I didn't have lessons. Okay. By 14, 2 years later, I was off scratch. Well, no lessons. And I started winning stuff. I was like, you're not bad, are you? He's like, no. I said, what were you doing then? He said, well, I just used to see it. I could visualize a shot. I didn't overthink things. I'd turn, and I could manipulate the ball, and I could put enough backspin. I was like, that's impressive. I said, I played golf off 10 handicap. I said, I've got no ambitions to go lower. It's too much work. But that's tough to get off 10. Manipulating balls and controlling balls, no lessons at 14. No, I think
yeah.
There's too much noise in there. By the time they're 20, 21, more coaches. It's like, man, Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, I find clips of the best and I send them to the guys I work with. We have WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
He had this one clip where he said, you've got to be really strong with your parents and your friends and your family. And you've got to say, no, don't talk to me about basketball. You don't know what you're talking about. The coach, it's not, oh, poor old Kobe. Oh, the coach doesn't like me. Oh, it's my issue. I'm not good enough. I've got to get back at it. And he said, I had to start boundarying friends and family and parents and go, don't talk to me about that. And that's tough with the young players I work with. So I've had to go through that cycle where the fathers have rung me and what are you telling us? Look,
yeah,
I've got kids, I'm not telling them anything, but I'll have 2 hours with them on the phone. You come with all your love and it's great, but you're out of your depth here. This is...
Yeah, this is bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's amazing, really, and I never actually thought about it in that way because there is such an influence from parents and people's lives, and it never stops. As long as you're a parent, as you know, and I know as well, with children, you're never ever going to stop being a parent. You're always going to continue to love, and you're always going to continue to want the best for your children. I want to jump back a little bit to your personal career. You came to the end of your career, and in your book, you clearly state you were just lost. You were bankrupt, you basically hit rock bottom, and then you entered rehab. What was that experience like for you? You'd been through, in my opinion, it was a very good career that you had. You played a lot of games, and I know you're very hard on yourself, but it was a career that a lot of people would have done a lot to try and have achieved themselves, but didn't ever get there because they didn't have the talent. But you did that. But you entered rehab at the end of your career, and it was an amazing experience for you.
Yeah. When I finished playing, I was coaching and doing my A license, and the first day the director of the academy stood up in front of all the parents and the new kids, 10 to 14, or 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and started delivering the facts on average careers in football. And the average career was 6 years, and And at 17, you think, over 100 goals and 500 games and all this and promotions. But ultimately, still today, I sit here and I am content with who I am. I have to work hard to keep this quiet, but I still accept that I never achieved what I should have achieved, which is my burning passion every day to help these guys. Because at 18, I was in England's best 26 players in the country alongside Michael Owen, Ferdinand Carragher. So if you're there on merit from what you've done between the ages of 12 and 18. I'm there. So if you're there, why can't you stay there? So I have to accept that. But what happened is, that's almost summed up what happened. So from 18 to 33, I spent 15 years looking for that player.
Yeah.
Looking for that player. Probably found him, say there's 50 matches a season, probably found him 5 times a season at best. But when I found that player, he was good. I mean, I'd win probably every header. I'd score. I'd hardly give the ball away. Dominate both boxes. I mean, it was pretty all-round Royal Rovers performance when I turned up. But the minute I'd have a great performance, I'd sit there and I'd be filled with dread in the dressing room before I even got in the shower, because this voice would go, "Yep, good luck doing that again in 3 days' time." And so that was my journey for 15 years, battling. So obviously, when you're battling, I had to. It was so painful. I'd have to escape it. Alcohol, but winning and football was my biggest obsession. And drugs. So I overtrained. I ate too cleanly. I lived too perfectly. I'd have no girlfriend for 3-4 years. They're going to get in the way. It's just this obsessive, compulsive.
Yep.
And then you're spending money to make yourself feel good. So you'll buy a car you can't afford. You have a place you can't afford, clothes you can't afford, a watch you get. Just trying to somehow on the outside project this absolute bankruptcy inside. Mm-hmm. Bankruptcy happens outside, because then when you finish playing at 33, there's no more paychecks. There's no savings. I was living paycheck to paycheck on the whim. I understand gamblers, even though I've never been a gambler. I said this to a friend of mine who is a gambler. He's in recovery now. He said, "Drew, you're one of the biggest gamblers I've ever met." He said, "But you gambled with yourself your whole career. Next year, if I get 20 goals next year, done. So you're always chasing. And at 33, there was no more outlets. There was no one else would give me a shirt on my back. That was it. Mm-hmm. By then, 22 clubs or something, people were just like, look, like a punch-drunk boxer, you've got no fights left in you. So very lucky with the PFA in England, the Professional Football Association. We were there for the players. The ex-England captain, Tony Adams, set up Sporting Chance, rehab clinic for addictions and emotional breakdown. I remember driving down there and had a clinical assessment for 2 hours, because it's not cheap. The union paid for players to go in there for 30 days. I remember sitting with the head clinician, psychotherapist, James. And afterwards he said, "You're exactly where you need to be." It was Friday. He said, "We start on Monday." He said, and I bumped into him a year or so after I went back there, and he said, "Drew, you came in here. You had the physical hallmarks of any heroin addict I've ever met. Wow. You were born, you'd lost weight, you were just traumatized. Yet there was no heroin in my system, alcohol, not really." And I went in there for 30 days to just find myself, to how did this? I'm a bright guy, a well-educated, good education, sportsman, compassionate. How am I in here? Hurt everyone I love. Career never fulfilled what it should have done. So what I found in there, in silence, because you weren't allowed your mobile phone, there was nowhere to run, there was nowhere to hide. You would meditate, you would do one-on-one therapy, group therapy. In the evenings, you'd go to a meeting, 30 days, 30 meetings a day. You were going to find the truth. And for me, I found the truth, and the truth was there's nothing to find. Like, I was always good enough. That's the tragedy. All I had to do was just be strong with myself on match day. Say, don't let these voices come in and derail you. You're good enough. be part of the group. Don't isolate yourself in the dressing room, because I used to isolate myself because I want to win. I've got to get ready for the game 2 hours before, foam roll, stretch. No. Just go and have a chat with your mate. Go and help them out today. You're good enough. Just relax. And that was the thing that came to me, that there's nothing to find. That I was always good enough.
That's amazing. It's amazing, really, to have gone to rehab and realized that when you're at the end of your career that there wasn't really anything to find.
But I sit here today. I've got a beautiful house. I've got all the material stuff back, and I sometimes I sit in my office here and I sometimes pinch myself. So really, I've got a bookcase full of spiritual books. I come in here at 10 to 6 most mornings and sit in that chair, and I pick one of the books off and I'll just read for 10 minutes and I'll meditate. And I just center myself and think, I have to keep, because nothing's ever enough for me. I'm still the same guy.
Yeah.
It's still that, okay, can you become the best coach in the world? When can you get away?
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought up the voices in your head. And, I too have voices in my own head. And I can only imagine, I can only speak for myself, but I can only imagine other athletes do. And certainly people in high pressure jobs will also have that.
A lot of people are thinking as well.
I've spoken to my wife about it, and I've spoken to my father about it, two of the most closest people that I have in my life, and they can't relate to it because they don't have that mentality. They don't have the voices, and it's very difficult sometimes with the closest people to have that conversation. And at times my wife will think, it's very strange that you have voices in your head. What do you mean you have more than one voice? And it's very difficult for me to have that conversation. And like you say, you've had many voices, and you say that in your book. There's not just one voice in your head. It's not two voices. It's many voices that are in your head. What is it? And how, if someone's out there watching in a high pressure position, how do they begin to control that?
I'll start there. How do we control it? One of the wisest men I heard, and you can find his audios on YouTube. A guy called Mark Houston, American guy. Mm-hmm. Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the legendary speakers on that circuit for years, set up a rehab centre himself. But he talks about the stage characters in his head, and it was brilliant. It really resonates with me. And every morning when I sit there, I think of him, because I think in my head I've got the father, the husband, the ex-athlete, the businessman now. Say I've got 5 characters in my head. It'll be 6 a.m. and the first one's started. So it might be different every day. It might be the husband. She doesn't love you. She's not going to stay with you. You don't do any jobs at home. You don't help. So he's cranking up. Mm-hmm. Then the father might help. Have you played with the kids enough this week, or is it you all the time? Mm-hmm. And then the businessman, you're a joker. You're not going anywhere. Your clients are going to leave you tomorrow. So. He described this so much better than I did, but he says, I sit them down, I pick a book off and I'm like, sit down, you lot, and I parent them like, and he said, I make sure the chair of that meeting at 6 a.m. is the spiritual voice in my head, because he's cool, man, all's well, there's no problems here, everything's good, we're exactly where we need to be. So he chairs that meeting, and I love that, because that's the voice I try and anchor to at 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. And I need about 15, 20 minutes. I walk out and I'm saying, I'm okay. I could have been a better husband this week. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. But perfectionism is one of the sickest addictions you can have, actually. It's addiction to perfectionism, nothing being enough. Mm-hmm. And I'm very aware of it in all areas of my life. In all areas. A child knocks something off the table, I can see my head going, well, why did you knock it off the table? You're joking. And I watch those voices, I just sit there and laugh at myself and just drink my water. And stuff happens, right? Stuff happens. Yeah. So, but that's hard work for me. And I think that's what helps me as a coach, because I have the fiercest drive to match anyone. No doubt, I put myself against Jurgen Klopp's a lower league German defender. I'm a lower league English centre forward. I have the same drive and intensity. he's got what he's. I think he's absolutely brilliant, by the way. But what I'm able to do with my clients is that driving intensity, but also, but look, you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay. Go and give the ball away. Go and mess up. Go and try and sell, and it fails, and get another idea. Whereas I think many people who have that drive haven't learned that other side. Roy Keane, for example, it's all out. It's not winners. It's like that's. If you're ever going to manage anyone, you're going to kill everyone. You're just going to destroy their love for the game.
Yeah. How do you deal with that, Drew, then? If like you're talking to a client who's going through a difficult situation, he's in a high performance league where he's at the highest level, the pressure's on him, and the head coach is telling him that this is what he wants him to do, but the player doesn't agree with that. How would the player in a difficult situation like that handle it? Because you mentioned earlier in the discussion that just ignore it and do what you think is right, what you believe is right? And then eventually you'll get the whistle and they'll pat you on the back. But if it is, and there are very strict coaches out there who are business leaders and high professionals giving you firm instructions that you don't agree with, how do you deal with that on a positive way in your mind? Because at some point you're going to have to do it.
Still ignore them.
Yeah.
Still ignore them. And not because of any other reason, only ignore them if what makes you go and play well today? I would say to them, what is that for you? What does that look like? How do you go and how have you even got to where you've got today at this level already? What have you done to get here? I just get the ball. I might be a dribbler, so I'm going to go at somebody. I'm a centre half. I've had it from every position. One of Mason, an international centre half, and he was saying he'd lost that ability. He was a ball player, driving to midfield play, got beaten out of it. So he's now at a place where he's like, I'm going into midfield every time. And I can hear, I'm still going in. He said, he's now 28, but the younger ones, you're like, look, I understand when people gave me those instructions, it's them verbalising their fear a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. If they were really self-aware and really honest, because they've got me in the team and they brought me to that position, or that I'm in their sales team because of what I do. So all I actually need is, are you ready today? Is there any, as a coach, what do you need from me? Have I let you down this week? Have I given you everything you need to go and be the guy that I know you can be? And that's on me if you fail. I think that's what Klopp and Guardiola best do, don't they? I think I hear things inside the game, but then watching they trust. It's trust, the tiniest thing, but it's everything. Lose trust in your marriage is done. Lose trust with your kids, the relationship, the bond is broken. Lose trust with your players. So I think, look, trust yourself. Most managers, and I've worked with a couple of managers externally, gone in and helped them a little bit, and they're so emotionally, they're not aware of the emotions of a player. Very black and white. Well, he's got a job to do, so he's going to go and do his job. Hang on, you had a job to do. I saw your career. You didn't do it that well. Let me tell you, because I didn't do it that well, and I did it better than you did yours. So come on. So I have to, and I work in the shadows. I don't publicise this stuff. But if I get a phone call before a Champions League game or Europa League game or a Premier League game saying, I'm in the hotel, I've been told today when I get the ball not to do this, the opposition play like this. So, okay, you get the ball, you do whatever you want with it. Because you told me your hero is Neymar and your hero is Messi, and they don't conform to anybody. And it's all right now going, well, Messi's 30. Messi was doing that at 17. His greatest gift is he doesn't conform. You know. He expresses it as a dribbler. A centre half might express it as I'm going to come out and play into midfield. A winger might, I'm just going to keep going at the fullback. But then the confident, now I'm going to drive inside now because get inside. You know what?
So many people who will watch this, especially in North America, different religions, different races, different sexes, gender, whatever it may be, they can all relate to that because in some stage in their life, it's going to come up. And they're going to have to make a decision. You know, do I follow the order that I don't agree with, or do I be myself?
you know, when I came out of rehab, and I'd never gone to church in my life. I was grown up in a family where if you want something, you go and make it happen. You fight and you scrap, and you be better than everybody else. And actually, when that didn't work for me, I started to look into the religions and started to go to church and observe them. When I went to Buddhism and Christianity, and I worked them hard. And I've got a book up there, Living Christ, Living Buddha. It's a very famous book.
Yeah.
And that's talking about the message, the universal message that I think Klopp and Guardiola and these guys give it subconsciously. But like, relax, like all is well, be still, you know, you're good enough.
It's fabulous. I tell you what, Drew, I wonder where you were in my career as well, because so many people could really have used this advice, and I know you could have used it yourself going throughout your career. It's fabulous. We're in a different generation now, though, and social media plays a very large role in all of our lives now. It's a fantastic product for many people, but it can also be a nasty place. Do you have clients that struggle with social media negativity, and is that something that you maybe work with around yourself that is a difficult thing to be able to deal with? It's not easy.
Yeah, I've got my phone because I'm going to read you a text. This was from 2 days ago. Premier League player. Instagram killing me slowly. All this talk of next season, what's going to happen, transfers, stats. I made a promise to his partner, I won't go back online again until I'm back at football. So, and he'd been offline for a while. I suggest to all the guys, get yourself off it. Why are you on there?
Yeah.
If you're at a point where you're looking to genuinely grow your brand because you've got 15 years, pay someone. You've got the money. Pay someone to run it for you. You know, you pay your accountant, you pay your agent, pay someone to run your social media. Don't go near it. Let him post pictures of you. Let him. You might
do you find it an addiction? Is it an addiction?
Without doubt. Without doubt. Absolutely without doubt. You only have to look at the screen time. I look at my screen time come up.
Yeah.
Hours spent on apps, and absolutely it's an addiction. Absolutely. And I have a very addictive nature, and my wife said to me, I'm just tired of you're on that thing all the time. And I'm really conscious of that. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm very conscious of it. I loathe social media. I wasn't on it up until 2 years ago. But it was actually a friend of mine said, what are you doing, mate? You need to get out. And you've got a lot to give. Like, you could be giving a lot. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad you are. And certainly in our line of work now, and in my line of work, being in the entertainment industry and television and sports broadcasting, it's very, very important, I think, for receiving news more than anything. That's why I use it for breaking news, for breaking stories, and obviously hearing it first. But certainly growing a brand and communication with people is also massively important. But there's no doubt, Drew, that I have a lot of colleagues who just... they cannot survive without going on social media. And I must admit, there's a lot of people that really struggle because it affects their confidence when they go on air. They've read a story about someone who disagrees and it's totally knocked them.
Without doubt. Yeah, without doubt. It's a toxic place. It's a toxic place. If I didn't use it for business reasons, there's no way I'd be on there. Posting about what I had for dinner or where I've been on holiday, I wouldn't do it. But certainly these young players, there's no value in it for me for them being on there.
I love that you're giving that type of advice, because I certainly have a tendency to agree to that, and I understand why agencies and sponsorships would want them to be relevant on social media for promotional reasons. Let's get over to your book, because I mentioned earlier, I read your book. It's excellent. And because I know you personally, it meant a lot to me. However, the book can really relate to so many different people in so many different lines of work. Whatever it is they do, they can relate to in some way your book. And I think that's fantastic, to your credit, for the way you wrote it. But the title, And Then What? What does that mean?
I think there's a story quite early on. I was working with a young player. It was December time. He was on 7 goals. He wanted 10 by January because the transfer window, midfield player, so 7 was a lot of goals. nothing's enough for him. And it was 3 weeks before January. He was on the phone to me on a Friday night. And I put the phone down, and my wife said to me, why did you keep saying then what to him? I was like this now, just rocked back in my chair. I said, I don't know, is that what I said? Yeah, and then what? I said, what was he saying to me? He was saying to me that, if he can get to 10 goals. And I said, well, then what? Well, I know for a fact that so-and-so and so-and-so watching me, they'll sign me if I get to 10 goals. Okay. How much are you earning now? He said, well, just under 2,000 a week. I said, okay. You go there, you get 10,000 a week? Yeah, 10,000 a week. Okay. And then fast forward a year, you get another 10 goals. They'll give you a new contract, 20,000 a week. Now the next season you get 15 goals. Now you get a move. Now you're in a Champions League team. Now you're on 80,000 a week. Okay, what's changed in that 4 years? So what do you mean? He said, what's changed? I said, well, what car do you drive? He said, Audi, A, whatever. Okay. How much your car worth? 30,000. Okay. So your next car worth might be 50. Now you're Champions League, so now your car's 160,000 pounds. I said, you're still sitting driving that car with your head. I said, nothing's changing. I said, trust me, I'm 40, 41. I said, I know for a fact I could be sitting in that chair at 75 and this voice will go, what's it all about? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? So I don't think for me by then. I think by then I should have made nothing. But I said, nothing changes. Like, it's just be yourself, let it unfold. Be yourself, let it unfold. It's just creation. Keep creating. Trust that everything will be well. Like, I said, your fear is not money, is it? It's, no, my fear is not I need the money. My fear is I know where I can get. Said, well, just be you then. Go Saturday, be you. Yeah, the last few weeks I haven't. I've been going on a picnic, got to score, got to. So you get no chance. It's just going to be tight and pent up. And then what? And having gone into the business world, I know, it carries on there. It's the same. It's just life, isn't it? And then what? There's always something more.
You use it a lot when you're talking to your clients, and then what? It's a great line.
Yeah.
In your book, I made note of this line, and it touched me. You said, as I sit and write this, I'm listening to Foy Vance, a beautifully real and grounded artist. He says, I decided when I went on this tour to just come on stage with myself, no pre-thoughts or ideas, just to turn up and see what comes. You then said, he's winning. In fact, I would say that he's won. Why? Because he understands the point of life is to not get anywhere. Just turn up and create, let it flow like a river cutting through a valley. Thinking would lead to taking the edge off of the natural process. I absolutely love that one because I can relate to it in so many ways. And reading your book, I think a lot of people would do the same thing that I did. They tried to relate what you were saying to their own lives. And that right there made me very happy. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the things that I have done in life, I've actually done exactly that. I've actually gone out and I've just performed. In soccer, I felt a different pressure because of injury, and it certainly held me back in my career, and I was worried and all this sort of stuff. So there's definitely a doubt there. But now in the TV studio, or if I'm going into a commentary booth, I'm in my element. And when that red light goes on, boom, I feel like I'm finally me. And that's why that line really related to me. So I'm really glad that you put that in there. But I guess the question would be, was I born with that, or was it something that I sort of taught myself through experience?
The gift is the curse, and hence the podcast series. I'm very aware it's not better than. And at times where I've opened up and shared this with people close to me in my life, they said, Drew, well, you think you're better than. I said, no, it's not better than. But I do know one thing for a fact is that losing hurt me more than 99% of the people around me. Not being there, not being better and better, hurt me more than most people I ever met. Everyone I work with is the same. I guess that's why I'm able to tap into them. The gift is the curse, because I think it's a great gift. It's drive, it's desire. But the problem is when you say that, is that the person you'd say it to could get offended by that if they weren't really self-aware. and they weren't able to detach from their ego, which would be getting bruised right then, and they'd be able to step back and go, no, okay, yeah, it doesn't hurt me that much. And that's one of the joys. I can just bounce back and enjoy life. And the amount of times people close to me say, just enjoy life, just enjoy it. I've found that today in moments, but I have to work very, very hard daily to just enjoy it. I have to get my butt in here at 6 a.m. for about half an hour just so I can be present with the kids and my head's not going off next thing. Mm-hmm. You know,
I guess that relates to this line here then. Trust yourself and who you are. Don't try to be like anyone else. Be you. If you don't, you will fail. The best take risks and they work until they drop. Now I'm going through this personally in my own life right now. I'm leaving a comfort zone that I've been so used to for 5 years.
I didn't know the situation, but I've seen you've made a big jump there. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, you know, at Fox Sports in Los Angeles, and I'm following my heart and my head. It's telling me, and certainly there's a pull from New York City because of, you know, sports broadcasting, in particular entertainment. But I'm choosing to be me. I'm choosing to go where I know that my journey is going to be best suited. It's a very difficult decision because you're uprooting family. And I think a lot of people who will watch this have gone through that experience in their life, moving from one company to the next or a team to a team. And it's very difficult to do. But I guess when you want to be yourself, you have to follow your heart and your head and making sure that you put yourself in the best environment where you could potentially be the best you that you can be. I love that line again, Drew. I thought it was great. Are you finally there yourself? You're trusting yourself and you're doing what you want to do in life?
I feel without doubt everything I have around me today is because I've done that for the last 8 years post rehab. But there's still this, and I'm having to let go of it every day. There's still this. Is this it? Is this it? Just take in the shadows, coaching people privately. No one knows you. No one knows what you're doing. You could affect far more people. Is this you just on social media and just... So I'm having to sit with that every day. I get a recurring vision, and I've had it for a while, of being a football manager. I don't know when that's going to be. I have to let go of it. I'm qualified. The thought of going back into that industry now for me is not something I want to do. The away weekends, be back in that grind, back in that. But exactly like you've said yourself, you don't choose these things. I'm very aware of that. Like, a really good friend of me said to me the other day, look, Drew, if that's going to happen, it will just happen. As everything you talk about, you're right. So, yeah, I am where I need to be right now, but I do have this recurring vision that there's something more than this. And my mentor, who's passed away now, who's in the book, Ron, when he passed away with cancer 8 years ago, literally, it all happened at the same time, career finished. And I remember sitting with him at the end of his life and held his hand, and he said to me, you know, Drew, you've always been a leader. He said, make sure you go and lead. And I was like, yeah. And that's always stayed with me. And I just think, you know, what is that? How is that? It's something bigger than this. But,
yeah.
Exactly like you've done, man. Just listen to that voice and go and back it. It takes a lot of courage to do what you've done.
I appreciate that, and certainly feels like that, because there's a lot of nerves that go into making big decisions in your life. But for the first time in a very long time, I'm in a very good place as well, mentally, and satisfied, and that burning drive to always continue to try to be a better me and better father and better husband and whatever it may be. I guess that leads me to the next question. I won't keep you much longer because I know you've got family to get to. But therapy is something that's been on my mind, and a lot of my followers on social media in particular, they relate to talking about themselves in a depressive way or in a mental way, or if I open up a little bit about myself, it's a little bit of therapy for a lot of my followers because they appreciate me opening up. But I've really noticed myself that I don't use a therapist. I have been to a therapist at some stage in my life. But like I said to you a moment ago, I'm very, very happy with where I am at this stage in my life, with who I am, what I am, how I live my life. But for some reason, I don't think I've ever felt like I've needed a therapist more than I do right now. And I don't know if it's because I've got a lot to talk about or if it's just because you're in that place.
It sounds, looking, just from a couple of things you said, looking in, is that there's a lot of fear right now. Right? I mean, look, there's only two things in life, isn't there? There's only two energies that we can make decisions from: fear or trust, fear or love, fear or trust, love, trust, faith. So if I'm feeling anxious, which is a physical symptom to a thought, then I sit and go, okay, I'm feeling short of breath, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling dissatisfied. What's going on? And I always take a pen and paper or my notes on my phone. I always start with, I am afraid of, underline. I just start. I'm afraid of a financial situation. I'm afraid of coronavirus right now. I'm afraid of not working because of coronavirus myself. So I'm just step back for a second and look at my fear. Otherwise, it's always physical symptoms of anxiety and not present in the room with my family but actually I'm stuck up here and I need to vomit all that thought out onto the page.
Mm-hmm.
What am I afraid of? So yeah, that's a big one, looking at my fears. And it's something I remember doing with a player once before a big game. Got him to write all his fears down about 5 hours before we just met at his house. And I had a load of post-it notes in my bag. So on every post-it note, you put a fear. And I just stuck it on his kitchen wall. I won't say there was hundreds. There was probably, I don't know, there must have been 30 post-it notes on there. And I said, imagine every single one of those is 5 kilogram weight. Mm-hmm. What's that? US, £10. And you're going to go onto the pitch with 30 times 300 pounds on your back. Good luck with that. Ain't going to go too well. So, and I would feel out of breath as a player. I remember one manager, it was in the book, testing me. He said, you kept subbing me in 60 minutes. I've just signed you. You're one of the fittest players I've ever seen. You can't even last. What is it? They call me up. And Monday morning fitness test. This is it. Wasted this money. And okay. And I didn't drink. I was very strict and diet. And I remember on the Sunday, one of the boys who lived near me, he was quite a relaxed guy. He's like, oh, mate, I'm going to go and watch football and a few beers. You want to come? I was like, I'm drinking water. I had a couple of beers, a couple more. We had a nightclub. And I went the next morning, trained brilliantly. Best I've trained in 6 months. Did the fitness test. Smashed everyone by far. Mm-hmm. I remember him sitting there at the sports scientist. There was about 5 of them, all in their initials on all. They called me over. Are you kidding us? What do you mean? Well, how do you do that? And then Saturday, you can't even jump on. And I didn't know. Looking back now, I'm jumping with 300 pounds of thought. No chance. So.
That's a great point. And certainly I have felt that in my career in big games. And, even
in life, even in life right now, right? Everything that's going on in the world right now. I mean, you can imagine the amount of thought that's going on in people's.
Well, that brought me to my next point, and I think this is very, very important, that there's no doubt that people are at home now. They're going to have certain issues. And I believe that for the first couple of weeks, it's okay. A lot of people will be able to deal with self-isolation. And many people have never been in this position before. Probably most of us have never been in this position or have been told to stay at home by their government, to stay away. And for a lot of people, that's not easy. My mind is 100 mile an hour and my energy is 100 mile an hour. And a lot of my following who will see this is on the East Coast. They're in New York, which is the biggest place that's being hit right now. And New York is a city that's full of energy. It's full of people who need that hustle, that bustle. So they're going to be very, very finding it very difficult, I think, being at home. Would you have any advice for someone who is at home? Maybe someone's lonely. Maybe someone's on their own. Maybe they're getting to a point where they can't do this anymore. Is there any sort of advice that you could maybe provide for someone who will get a chance to watch this going through that?
First of all, we have to accept exactly where we are. That's the first step. To just accept that I am lonely. Write it down. I'm finding this tough. I'm finding it tough being stuck at home, wife, kids. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm out and I'm reactive and I'm all over the place all day, jumping on a train there, and I love that. And I'm finding it tough. All I've done is anchor to the things that I've done post-therapy, that I preach to the guys I work with. We are human beings, so we need to service that need first of all. So I'm physical. The human body needs to be walking, exercise. It needs to happen. And I'm not here preaching as a fitness coach, right, get up every day and do an hour. Might be, but you have to accept that the physical body needs some exercise. Structure is everything. I mean, I've got my A3 sheet on the desk here, and I've kind of structured the next 2-3 days, literally from 6 a.m. Not rigidly, but 2 hours with the family at lunch, and then another 2 hours here and call him, do that. So I'm structured because I'm a creature that needs structure. If I'm structureless, which is why I struggled at the end of my career, I can get into a really bad place really quick because I'm going up in my head. So structure is number one. Number two, starting the day with doing some physical exercise, doing some reading, like read. Yeah. Again, it's a bit preachy, and there's a lot of this stuff online, isn't there? Just read a book, and I can find some of it quite annoying, but it's the truth. Don't read the phone. Go and nourish your spirit, nourish your soul. Don't get out of here. It's this that's the issue. Thinking. And actually, the last one is letting go. You have to accept where you're at. The more you fight and resist it, it's just you're not going anywhere. That's a battle. You're putting more energy into a battle. Acceptance of exactly what it is. Okay, I'm here for might be 2 months, might be 3 months. It is what it is. Okay, how can I best manage myself in this period?
Yeah,
it's not going to be easy. I'm going to be lonely. I'm going to get angry, irritable. All of that stuff is going to come up. But just starting to just make peace with that, and day at a time, structure and getting through it. Really,
it's well said, and it's very, very important for many people who are watching on for a piece of advice, and also from me. I'm trying to take this as a bit of a blessing in disguise. For a lot of people, their life is 150 miles per hour, and they never have a chance to just sit down, spend some quality time with your family, play a video game or play a board game, read a book. I've read 3 books already in this short space of time because I never get to sit down and read a book from cover to cover in the space of a week. I just never have that time. So now I finally have something that I've been searching for a very long time, and that is time. I've got some time now, which is great. So, Drewe, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. And I know we're very, very close friends. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this without speaking to you beforehand was because I wanted it to feel, I wanted to get to speak to you and to have you feel it from me personally as well. A brutally honest way. It's great to have this conversation with you. I'm very proud of you for what you've done with your book and the way you've got control of your life, because I did see you at a stage in your life where you were certainly going through a lot. But I must admit, I'm very, very proud of what you've done, and long may that continue. Here in the United States, we have an old school mentality in a lot of sports, in American football, and baseball, and NHL. A lot of old school coaches, and certainly someone like you with your mentality and the way that you're working with your clients could certainly come in handy. Would you be interested in something like that in your career?
Yeah, I've been in conversation with a couple of people who found me on LinkedIn and been commenting on my posts who are in quite influential positions at MLS clubs, and they're always commenting on my posts, and they message me privately, Drew, I love your content, so real. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, although I look after my private guys, I've got 4 Zoom conference coaching things this week. I public speak. I do all that stuff. I've done coach seminars at clubs in England. Absolutely. I want to fight that old school mentality. And I think why I'm able to potentially go and punch holes in that a little bit is because my reputation as a harder player. So you walk in the room like, okay, well that's done. Like that. He was tough, and he was 6'3". He was so they can't go, well, you don't. I do know, and I was that guy. But actually, and Tyson Fury's the man for me. What he's done and how this is the heavyweight champion of the world. So I think we've got to try and turn some of the old school mentality around a little bit.
Where can people find you, Drew? Obviously, social media is now there for you. You've just become active on that. But people who are in business terms looking to connect to you, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to across here in the United States. Yeah,
LinkedIn seems to be the main forum for me. I'm on Instagram, but LinkedIn seems to be where I do all my talking privately and private messages and all that stuff. And I post on there. I've got 5 posts to do this week, so I post on there regularly. I really enjoy. I love putting out content. You say you enjoy what you do. That's the bit I love doing. I love sourcing great content, digging around and finding what Kobe Bryant said, finding what Nelson Mandela said. That actually is exactly in line with something I've just seen in the Champions League, something that Richard Branson just said. So, yeah, LinkedIn, I think.
Where can people buy your book?
Amazon, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, it's certainly worth the read. Fantastic book, Drewe Broughton. And then what? It's been a pleasure talking to you, mate. It's been a pleasure connecting. I really look forward to it sometime. You've been over in the United States, around the New York area. We could connect. It won't be in a home studio when we're stuck going through isolation. It will be in a proper studio. And the next time, maybe we'll bring in a couple of athletes and we can really get stuck into doing some business together, because I would really, really appreciate it. And I'd love to talk to you a lot more. Drewe Broughton, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.